Hey everyone, it's Amanda here. You're about to listen to the audio version of last week's 200th episode live extravaganza. So this was the first time I've done anything live, much less with video. I'll tell you, being on video is a really vulnerable experience, but I'm really proud of how it turned out thanks to a lot of hard work from everyone involved. There are certain elements that I think will be a lot more interesting to experience with video, so go check out the full episode video on YouTube, where you'll find it at bit.ly/ch episode 200. Don't worry, I'm going to share that in the show notes. You can find it right there. The CH is capitalized. The rest of it is not. Once again, that's bit.ly, that's ly/C_H episode 200. That link will be in the show notes, or you can just search for Clotheshorse Podcast on YouTube. All right, let's get it started. Welcome to Clotheshorse, the podcast for people who love clothes but hate capitalism. I'm your host, Amanda, and this is episode 200. There was supposed to be an air horn there, but there isn't, so we'll just hear it in our minds. Oh, there it is! Yeah! Woo! That's right, it's episode 200, and we're coming to you live from So Good Media Studios at the Candy Factory in beautiful, scenic, idyllic Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Today, we are here to celebrate. Thank you. Yeah, we needed more of that. We are here to celebrate, and I was getting a little teary-eyed. We're here to celebrate 200 episodes of Clotheshorse. And because doing this live is a big and challenging undertaking, we've already had a couple technical issues, I have some people here to help. First off is Dustin, who you can't see, but is sitting directly across from me, manning all the technological stuff. He's my partner. He's the audio producer for Clotheshorse. And actually, I'll just say, when I started Clotheshorse back in 2020, I literally had no idea how to create a podcast. I knew nothing about audio production or editing. I knew when something sounded bad, but I didn't know how it was that way. And it turns out it's super handy to be married to a very supportive audio engineer. I can't imagine Clotheshorse existing without Dustin, so please give a round of applause for Dustin, or a mental air horn, if you will. I think a mental air horn is always appropriate. Anyway, I have another very special guest helping me out this week, someone you longtime listeners will recognize from the early days of Clotheshorse, numerous episodes, including the creation of the Anti-Brunch Society. It's my dear friend, Jem Masland.
Hi, Amanda.
Hi, here you are.
Here I am.
We're here in Lancaster County.
Yes, we are.
You've been here for a few days now.
I have, yeah.
What would you say were the highlights of your visit to Lancaster County?
Hutch, I would say.
Fair.
Has been doing some really memorable stuff. I also enjoyed my visit to BB's very much.
Yeah,
and
you'll hear about BB's, don't worry. We're not speaking some secret language, only
Lancastrians?
Yeah, I don't know. Equestrians? No, wrong podcast. So we're gonna be talking all about BB's later, don't worry.
Sure.
Back in the day, back in, late 2020, early 2021, we weren't even doing an episode that was in any way related to breakfast foods. But what we landed on in that episode is that brunch kind of sucks, right?
Absolutely.
So I just wanted to know, right now, here it is, it's years later. What are your thoughts on brunch?
I mean, if anything, my stance on brunch has become even more entrenched. Because when you think about it, all brunch is a great big faff for food that you could make better and more affordably at home.
It's a true story. And I know, some things, maybe the quality wouldn't even be as good,
Absolutely, particularly Dutch babies.
Yes, they always get so rubbery by the time they get to your table.
Yeah, they degrade as soon as you drive them off the lot, so...
Like so many things. Jem, I'm so glad you're here with us this week. And Jem has a very special job today, which is manning the chat. You see any cool stuff coming across the ticker, it's coming from right over here. And Jem's also going to pass any important questions or comments my way. So chat it up. I know you can't be here IRL right in front of us. Hopefully the next time we do something like this, you will. But this is your chance to talk to both of us while we're doing this.
Yeah, I've got some lovely shout-outs already, Amanda, so they're just going to be popping up on the screen.
How exciting. I love that. I'm so glad that all of you are here. Before we jump in, I have one more big sort of last-minute thank you that we didn't see coming. So picture it. It's a couple hours ago. We're walking up to the candy factory here, and someone says to me, Amanda, I have exciting news for you. There's an edible arrangement in the refrigerator just for you. Well, longtime listeners, people who know me IRL, you know that there is only one gift that really matters in this world. The gift that trumps all gifts.
The key to unlock your heart.
It really is. It's an edible arrangement. Should we show it off? This edible arrangement, a really high quality one at that, I'm going to tell you. This is a top-notch one. We've got chocolate, we've got melon, we've got strawberries. We have pineapple in the shape of flowers. This is what love is. It came from Ruby and Maggie, and they included just the loveliest card. I actually started crying when I read it, so we thought that maybe Jem could give a dramatic reading of this amazing edible arrangement card.
Here goes.
Lay it
Dear
on
Amanda,
us.
Congratulations on 200 episodes. Thank you for all you do and for folding us into the Clotheshorse community. Here's to 200 more episodes and bringing even more people to the slow fashion way of life via kindness and authenticity. You rock! XOXO, Ruby and Maggie. And we've seen already on the ticker that Ruby and Maggie are tuning in.
Yay!
Saying hello from their respective cities.
Thank you so much, Ruby and Maggie. You know the way to my heart. And I don't think this is an overstatement, but I didn't get an edible arrangement on my wedding day, so this might be the best day of my life so far. I don't know. So thank you so much. I'm beyond. As we were beholding the glory of this edible arrangement earlier, Jem asked me if it was the first one I'd ever received. And I said, actually, no, it's the second one. And I was reminded, I think I sort of filed this story away in my brain so I would never feel sad about edible arrangements because they are the best gift you can give anyone ever. Mm-hmm. I received one on my first day at Newly. My friend Mary sent it to me. When I walked into my new desk, there it was sitting there. And I shed tears of joy. And I thought, wow, here it is, my first day. I'm going to walk around with this edible arrangement, and people are going to faint. They're going to be like, this is literally the best day ever. And everybody was like, ew, what, are you going to eat that? And so I put it back in the refrigerator, and then I took it home on the subway. I held it the whole way home and took it back to the corporate housing. And you know what? I did eat that edible arrangement. But I do think it was I don't know, perhaps.
It feels like a bit of a litmus test, if I'm going to be honest.
I think so. I think so. It was sort of a forecast of things to come, that maybe that wouldn't be the right place for me.
A barometer, if you will.
And when people were rejecting my edible arrangement, I did think, should I just quit today? But I had just moved across the country, and I would have had to pay back the relocation loan if I left right away, so I decided to put a good year into it.
I mean, yeah, that would have been a really expensive edible arrangement.
I know, but worth it. It had a lot of strawberries. All right, well, edible arrangement. I can smell the chocolate over here. It's motivating me, keeping me fresh here. When Clotheshorse began nearly 4 years ago, it was not the best day of my life. I had not received an edible arrangement in some time. In fact, it was a really low time in my life. I'd lost my job. It was a global pandemic. I don't know if any of you remember that. And I felt so afraid of everything. And honestly, it was really hard to wake up every day and find a reason to keep going. I primarily played The Sims. I cried, and I learned how to make corn tortillas. And so for quite a while, I would get up, play some Sims, make some corn tortillas, always set off the smoke alarm, eat said tortillas, and play some Sims some more. And after a while, I was starting to resent my Sims. And I think Dustin was resenting the smoke detector going off every day. And so then I got into Reddit, which I think a lot of us did in 2020. And there was a lot of conversation happening on Reddit at that time about Danielle Bernstein. So in a weird way, influencer Danielle Bernstein is responsible for Clotheshorse, although I wouldn't want to give her that credit. But there's a lot of conversation happening at that point about how she was stealing designs from small brands, a tale as old as time, something I know so well from my career. And I would often find myself explaining to people on Reddit, I was being that person, unfortunately. I was Amanda-splaining, if you will, how the industry works, right? And what struck me as I was talking about this stuff, like this language, this way of functioning that is second nature to me from working in the industry for decades, is actually largely hidden and mysterious. And I wondered, what if I could share everything I had learned along the way, kind of demystify, de-glamorize fashion? Would it change other people's relationship with clothing and shopping and influencers and everything else in the same way it had mine? And so Clotheshorse began. The name actually came from you, Jem, which, by the way, Jem did not know this until yesterday when we were doing our dress rehearsal. Jem is really great at introducing people to others, really builds you up as a character, as an exciting person. And Jem would always introduce me as Bon Vivant and Clotheshorse. And so the name was immediate.
To say nothing of your taco expertise.
Lots of taco expertise.
I always mentioned your tacos.
Yeah, I do make some great tacos, humble brag. And, sometimes I make the tortillas as well. And so the first few episodes were recorded at my desk, 3 feet away from our bed, in our very muggy, hot row house in Philadelphia. And I'm so lucky that I have all these incredible friends and former coworkers from over the years who were generous with their time and were like, sure, I'll spend 2 to 6 hours talking to you for an episode. I had no idea if it would work. I didn't know if it would continue, if people would listen, and I definitely was afraid of failure. But then again, I was already at one of the lowest points in my life. Like, my career seemed to be over, and that was very scary for me because over the years, my career had kind of become my identity. It was the only thing that people found interesting or worthy of respect about me, or at least that's how it always felt. And so now I no longer had that. I had nothing to lose, so why not just whip out a podcast? It turns out it's a lot more work than that. This morning I was thinking, as I've said on the podcast before, the best ideas always come in the bathroom. Bathrooms just really inspire me creatively, photographically, etc.
Well, there's something very receptive about them as spaces.
They're full of receptacles. I was wondering, how many podcasts were started in 2020, because there certainly were a lot. How many were still going now? And
I know mine isn't.
I know so many that aren't. I wondered how many get to 200 episodes. Well, there wasn't a ton of data out there, but in 2020, more than 600,000 new podcasts were launched, which was a record. And the number since then has declined considerably each year. According to Podmatch, who's done a lot of research into the longevity of podcasts, only 11% of podcasts make it to 50 episodes. No word on 100, much less 200. But I'm proud to have stuck it out because Clotheshorse is a rarity in that regard, especially to be a bootstrapped, I hate that term, but a podcast that literally was paid for by selling my clothes and using my unemployment checks. For a podcast that's not on a network, that isn't on Spotify, professionally, that doesn't have big advertisers or a celebrity at the helm, it's a really big deal that we're 200 episodes.
Well, don't sell yourself short, Amanda. I'd call you a celebrity.
Thank you. They're also a celebrity now. I still swear that of the 200 episodes, here we are at episode 200, episodes 1 and 2 are a must listen for anyone interested in slow fashion. And I feel so lucky that Janine was eager to break all of this important top secret information for strangers all over the internet, because sharing this kind of information that is top secret will, at the very least, perhaps hinder your career in fashion, if not completely destroy it. Like, when I decided I'm going to double down on Clotheshorse and keep making it and keep going harder with the kinds of stuff I talk about, I was like, this is the end of my career in fashion, and it feels amazing. Because after all, it turns out people in fashion reject edible arrangements. Like, what's wrong with these people? Look at how glorious this is.
I mean, should I show it to them again?
Yeah, let's just get it back on camera, because this is like, it's not every day, right? And the thing is that, like, no one in fashion, we all know the recipe for how the sausage is made, but we're never supposed to talk about how it's made, much less criticize the sausage itself. So I'm grateful for all of the guests who have been on Clotheshorse over the years, who have taken that risk and opened up. You have no idea how much that means to me, and I know it means so much to all of you who listen to Clotheshorse. I said watch as if we're turning into a TV show. Am I getting into being a television star now? I don't know. Anyway, I have been obviously feeling quite nostalgic. I'm a nostalgic person anyway, by nature. I'm thinking a lot about the journey that Clotheshorse has been on to get to 200 episodes, almost 4 years later. And I decided to go back and look at the scripts for the first few episodes to see how I felt about them now, because I've certainly grown a lot as a podcaster, as a writer, as a person who engages with this incredible community. I wanted to see how I felt about it. And I'll tell you that over the past 4 years, I have written thousands of pages of stuff for Clotheshorse. I have done tons of drafts and tons of research and read so many things, and I write epic Instagram captions every single day. And I'll tell you, the hardest thing that I've written in the history of Clotheshorse was the introduction for episode 1, where I was going to have to say, hey, you, this is why you should listen to me. And so I went back and read it, and I really enjoyed it, which I don't know, I'm a celebrity now, so I'm full of myself. But I thought I would just read a little bit of it for you today, because it speaks to a time of my life that has not really changed, actually, even though it was 4 years ago. So here's how episode 1 started. Hopefully all of you are going to remember this, or if not, it'll be new to you and also exciting. Hi, I'm Amanda. I'm your annoying coworker that won't eat at Chick-fil-A because they support anti-LGBTQ organizations. And yeah, I know they allegedly don't do that anymore, but who wants to support a company whose leadership is so homophobic and transphobic that they would still make a big show of donating to these organizations? I'm also your annoying coworker that won't take a SoulCycle class because that company is such a huge supporter of Trump that I may as well just donate directly to his campaign. So as I was reading this, I was like, wow, really interesting that I called out SoulCycle. And then I remembered why, which is at my last job before the pandemic at Newly, every time we would travel as a team, especially to LA, it would be this whole like team thing to go take a SoulCycle class. And I would always say no. And it made things kind of awkward. And someone at one point was like, oh, you don't like exercise? And I was like, oh no, I just don't like racists. And then I was like, here's why I don't go. And it definitely, I think people already had the idea of me as like, oh, that's Amanda, buyer / social justice warrior. But I think it really reinforced it. And at the time, it felt really uncomfortable to me. But now I think it's a title that I hold quite proudly. So I love that at this time, the SoulCycle rage was still so deep within me. Where was I here? Oh, why am I so annoying? Because I feel that in a capitalist society, our money is as powerful as our vote. When we buy things from brands that make the world a worse place, we are casting a vote in favor of the bad things they are doing, whether it's exploiting marginalized people, creating a culture of fat phobia and racism, or just plain supporting Donald Trump. When we withhold our money and give it to brands that are doing good things, we not only force the bad companies to rethink their practices, we also help good brands grow their businesses, making ethical practices the standard rather than the exception, which I feel is something we're still talking about regularly here on Clotheshorse. It's hard to know where to cast your vote in the world of fashion. The industry is veiled in layers upon layers of mystery. And there's even all this spin: inclusive, sustainable, ethical, conscious. eco-friendly. What do these terms even mean? I'm going to be honest with you. I've been on furlough from my job for more than 3 months, thanks to the coronavirus pandemic. And while I've spent most of my time worrying about my family's future and fretting about money, I found myself becoming more and more engaged with Reddit. I literally can't believe I didn't mention The Sims at all. I feel like I've slighted my Sims.
Oh, well, don't worry. I'm sure they'll write their memoir.
I think at that point I was deeply resentful of my Sims, where I was like, why can't you do anything right without me? So I was like, they're out of it.
Yeah, well, that's just your side of the story, Amanda.
That's true. I could be an unreliable narrator.
Could be.
So anyway, I was engaging more with Reddit, and there I have found a sense of community. I often find myself answering questions about all kinds of fashion-related issues, from inclusive sizing to influencer collab lines to why do you think this brand went out of business? It feels so good to share my experience. And as I did this, I realized that if you don't work in the industry, nothing about it makes sense. My mission with Clotheshorse is simple: to educate all of you about the fashion and retail industries by revealing the complex machine underneath the spectacle of trends and buzzwords. You can make better decisions about where to cast your vote. By now, you're probably wondering, well, all of you watching this are not, but like, imagine it's the first time you're listening to me talk. By now, you probably want to know why I'm declaring myself the expert in this area. I've been working in the fashion and retail industry for the majority of my adult life. I began as a part-time seasonal sales associate for a large retail chain, which I can now say Urban Outfitters. From there, I moved into buying as the first person to be moved from the stores to the home office in more than a decade. To be honest, I didn't even know that buying was a job. I assumed I would spend my days smoking cigarettes, American Spirit, because this would be like baller salary, right? And looking at fashion magazines. In reality, it's a lot of spreadsheets, which I love, applied mathematics, I also love, and critical thinking, another favorite, with a splash of shopping. Like, seriously, this much shopping. Since then, I've worked for large corporations, buzzy startups, and medium-sized e-commerce brands. In our inaugural episode, we'll be starting at the beginning. I'm not promising that we'll be answering life's biggest questions because, to be honest, I'm not sure what they are. I think that was a good way to get it started.
Yeah.
I rarely say that about things. And I have to say that I stand by all of this. Over the years, I've met so many incredible people thanks to Clotheshorse, and I'm proud to be able to share my platform with them. And over the years, like, the message has evolved. We talked about capitalism, brunch, workers' rights, Jem's dad's wardrobe,
Mr. Masland, yeah.
mental health, shopping, mending, thrifting, and so much more. And I've watched this incredible community form around Clotheshorse, but more importantly, a shared sense of purpose. And for me, that's the best part of it all. I was talking recently, actually, here at the Candy Factory to some people about where Clotheshorse began, how I got into podcasting. And I said, to be honest, it was a complete surprise to me that this is what I started and this is where I am, as has everything in my life, from my career to having a kid to meeting Dustin and everything else in between. And the one thing I will say that I am surprised the most of, but also that brings me the most joy, is this community and how incredible it is and how we support one another and we inspire one another. And for me, I look at my work with Clotheshorse as sort of like my responsibility as a member of that community to help support and lift up our community and let their voices be heard. And I feel that I'm like a servant to our community.
Well, just like the Queen.
Just like the Queen, I am.
She lived a life of service.
There you go. I'm just like the Queen. So we asked you all, and I don't know why I'm saying we, I asked you all to send in some videos, some messages, telling us about what you think of Clotheshorse, the community, slow fashion, your experiences with it. And throughout this episode, we're going to be sharing some really amazing words from all of you. And we're going to get started with Desirée. Desirée sent a video all the way from Rome. And you might remember Desirée from the recent episode about responsible travel, which was honestly like one of my favorite episodes to record, no offense, because I just love talking about travel so much. So let's take a listen.
Hi, Amanda. This is Desirée of the Pewter Thimble. I want to say congratulations on 200 episodes. That's an incredible body of work you've created, and I appreciate your work so much. The very first episode I ever listened to was in September, I think, of 2020. It was episode number 20 about vegan leather, vintage towels, and boundaries with Danny of Picnic Wear. And obviously, it was incredible because I've listened to every episode since. I especially loved your episodes about toys with Jess Todd, Toys Gone Wild. And I love interactions you've had with Maggie Green. They were always really fun. She stands out as a voice I loved hearing. I just wanted to celebrate with you and let you know that your work is important and informative and interesting, and I value your time so much. So thank you. My question for you is, what is the best way for us as your community to be supportive of you? Let me know. And I hope you're celebrating your accomplishments today. I enjoy your podcast so much. Thank you.
Are we good? Thank you so much, Desirée, for such a kind message coming all the way around the world. I know Desiree is probably asleep right now, but hopefully she'll watch this tomorrow. So thank you, Desiree. And Desiree asks a really great question. How can the community support Clotheshorse? And this is something that I'm always so uncomfortable about it. And I think it's because, like many of us who were signed female at birth, we're not comfortable. We're not told to tell people how they can support us. We're supposed to ask, how can I support you? So anytime this question comes up, I usually try to avoid it, but I know I shouldn't. So how can you support Clotheshorse? Well, one is that you can share content across all the social media platforms. I mean, any of you who have a small business right now know that it is much more difficult to get people to see your content on Instagram, for example. So sharing that is a big help. You can tell your friends, and honestly, my favorite messages to receive are from someone who says, hey, my friend blank told me about Clotheshorse, and now I just listened to 20 episodes in a row in one day somehow. The math doesn't math, but anyway. And it's totally changed the way I look at clothing, and thank you so much. I love hearing that you've brought other people into our community, because that's the goal anyway, right? So tell your friends. You can even tell people that you don't like very much, but maybe you like, this would benefit them. They don't have to be like your close friends. They could be coworkers, your family. This is like the cliche thing that every podcast says, but it's really true. Subscribe, rate, and review. That helps get Clotheshorse seen by more eyes. And of course, I would be remiss if I did not mention that you could support Clotheshorse financially. This is a really hard one for me to ask in a time when everything is so hard for everyone. And there are really much bigger, worse things happening in the world than my dumb podcast. But the reality is that making Clotheshorse costs a lot of money. In fact, even doing this tonight costs money. And last year, it's fresh in my mind right now because I literally waited until April 13th to do my taxes, making my parents proud, no doubt, that I procrastinated so long. And after I did my taxes and deducted all the costs of running Clotheshorse, I found that last year, if I only worked 40 hours a week on Clotheshorse, which is unlikely, I was paid $1.25 an hour for that work. So obviously, that doesn't pay my rent or my health insurance or Hutch's food or, Brenda's treats or anything. So I work a full-time job as a consultant to support myself. And if I'm being honest with myself, I don't know how sustainable that is long-term to work 80 plus hours every week. And I also would say, it prevents me from doing all the things that the community wants, that I want, for reaching more people and doing more education, doing more cool things. So if you do have the wherewithal to support Clotheshorse financially, I am always appreciative of that. It goes to a good cause, or at least I think it does. And there are many ways you can support Clotheshorse. You can go to patreon.com/clotheshorse-podcast. You can buy me Ko-fi. You can find that on my website or in my Instagram profile. And there are other ways you can support Clotheshorse. You can find those in my Instagram profile as well. All right. Well, now that I asked you all for money, and edible arrangements, obviously. Still, best, most magical gift ever. Let's take a question from Instagram, where I also received some questions. This one comes from Gail. Gail asks, do you ever feel there are no new subjects to discuss relevant to Clotheshorse? One of my favorites was the happiness episode, which was a departure from the usual topics related to fast fashion. You know, back when I started Clotheshorse, I was like, oh, like, how long can I really talk about this? Like, we're going to run out of things. And then the things just kept coming, and it grew. And there's even more that we've barely talked about that I would like to continue to sort of pull back the curtain on. And those are industries like cosmetics and beauty. I'm always looking for guests there. It's really hard to get people to come and be real about cosmetics and beauty. So if you know anyone, shoes, another really difficult category to get people to talk about. Luxury, same thing. Large secondhand platforms. I know you all have been begging for an expose on ThredUp, but they keep that information on lockdown. So if you know any former employees, send them my way. Travel. We've just begun to talk about travel as something we consume. Textile recycling. Basically anything related to consumption is an important topic for us here at Clotheshorse, because it may have started as a conversation about fast fashion, but it's really fast everything, and it's everything we're being sold. Actually, Jem had a great idea that we're going to pursue, which was having some conversations about food and our consumption of it, and how, I don't know, it's not as straightforward as like humans need food and we eat food thanks to social media and so much more.
No, it really isn't. And you're also getting, I'm behind the puppet. You're also getting into the kinds of things that influence fast fashion, where that's like the greater lifestyle of being within capitalism, like our time, the value on our time. Availability is a huge one with food. I mean, we're not here to get started on that conversation, but it's definitely
there's
one
a lot to
have,
talk about. And I think really when we think about like anything that has become like a social media cachet topic to post about, hashtag if you will, it's tied into consumption. And we know food, like travel, like clothing, like so much more, is being photographed and being sort of fetishized. And it's really changing up like how we feel about ourselves.
Well, I mean, it has so much to do with the colonization of our dreams and the point where we are.
It's true. The colonization of our dreams, indeed.
Yeah, and it does. And it's got a lot of the same kind of problems as, actual colonization has, where, there's somebody who has the platform and has the voice and the power, and then we internalize a lot of that too. And then the next thing you know, we're taking pictures of Hot Pockets.
Are we?
In our, in something made by someone like Dov Charney.
Yeah, okay, that's true. That's true, yeah.
You saw that, it came together in the end.
It works, yeah, it all comes together in the end. Yeah, so if there's anything you would think would make a great topic for a Clotheshorse, like drop it in the chat right now. I am going to tell you, I'm pretty sure I saw Lynn is here and watching right now. Lynn, I want you to know that the next episode, or maybe 2 episodes from now, we will be talking about why more brands don't make plus size clothing, and why they don't make more specific like plus size clothing for tall people and plus size clothing for short people. So stay tuned for that in a few weeks. There's also just so much more to talk about in terms of mental health and shopping and how it connects together, and the power of community, feeling comfortable in our own clothes, collective action, work and how it impacts us.
Identity even.
Yeah, identity for sure. And just also taking time together to dream about a better future, an economy that serves us more. I guess I basically just said there's at least 200 more episodes of Clotheshorse out there.
The happiness episode is an interesting one to cite, because ultimately, the better you feel and the more satisfied you feel, the less likely you are to feel like you need to go buy something or have some expensive experience in order to, feel alive, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. And I think it's all I'm glad that we've been expanding the conversation because it all makes sense to me. I see how all of it has been fast fashionified. Okay, well, we have another video to watch. This is another international submission. I feel very global right now.
Oh, just real quick, they've got someone making a good point. Is Cecilia Garcia, I hope I'm pronouncing that all right, is saying that a possible future topic could be like the of the month clubs.
Oh,
and
yeah.
that kind of idea of like the capsule magazine of stuff, I guess.
Yeah, okay, so I'm going to tell you, and this is maybe consider this an official call. I am looking for someone to be a guest about subscription boxes. It needs to be someone who worked in buying or product development or planning for that, because I have been obsessed with doing an episode about that since the first year of Clotheshorse, and I haven't been able to find someone, but I do think that probably in the past year, enough people have been laid off by like Stitch Fix or FabFitFun or what have you, that there are probably people out there who are ready to come and talk about it. So if you know anyone,
interesting to do the people who do the pet boxes. Like
the
dog boxes.
the wag box or whatever. Yeah,
or just simply the fact that we have such an industry of things that we think we now need for our pets as this extension.
That's a whole thing too. I know.
Thing.
Sometimes I get really depressed about that. Okay, well, now we're going to watch another video. Like I said, this is an international submission. It comes from Frances, who is Canadian. And I know right now Frances is on quite a trot around the globe, so she may not see this for a while, but let's see what Frances has to say.
Hello, Amanda, and hello, Clotheshorse, coming to you from my back deck here in Toronto. I, first of all, just want to say congratulations, of course, on the 200th episode. So exciting. I am so happy and proud to consider myself part of this community. I love listening to every episode. I learn so much, and I really feel like I get to know you and the guests, and it really feels special to be a part of something that brings me so much important information in a way that feels so affirmative and so hopeful, which I know is really important to you and to a lot of us, especially right now. I think the biggest impact that Clotheshorse has had in my life, besides just teaching me so much and bringing me into this community of really wonderful, awesome, badass people, has been being able to become sort of that person or the locus of that information for my friends and in my community. Because of everything I learned from Clotheshorse, because of those connections I make, the other people that I get to learn from, the things I learn in Small Biz Big Pick as well, because of those things and the, passion and sort of like willingness to share that is taught through Clotheshorse, I can be that person to the people I know when they have questions about slow fashion, when they have questions about the clothing industry and its impact in the world, when they want to talk about thrifting or they want to, share something they learned with me. I've kind of become that person to the people I know, and that just allows the sort of chain of this information and these ideas to keep moving forward, organically through our communities, through my communities. So I really appreciate that Clotheshorse has given that to me, as I'm sure it has to many of us. And thank you. Congratulations. If anyone wants to stay in touch, I would love that. I'm on Instagram at Frances May Design. That's Frances with ES, so FRANCES. That's me, MAY Design on Instagram. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Frances, for going all the way and even including a video of yourself. That's very brave. And what I'm learning as we're doing this is being on video is very vulnerable. It feels so weird for all of you to be able to see me when I'm talking. So I'm grateful for all of you who took the risk and did that. I also just want to say how happy I am to hear that Frances has become the hub of information about slow fashion within her community, because that's the thing that's really important to remember here. for some of you, I might have been the first person to talk to you about these things that we talk about here, but I'm just one link in the chain of information sharing. And it's important that you have similar conversations with the people you know. Then they share what you told them with other people who share it with even more people. And that's how a movement begins, right? It begins with all of us as these little these little links in this chain of information, sharing and sharing and sharing and talking and talking. So I hope many of you are that person in your circle of friends and family who they can come to for questions about brands or fabrics or stains or mending or anything else out there. And you should be really proud of how you reach people just by having normal everyday conversations. So one thing I wanted to shout out right now before I forget is that if you are currently watching this on Instagram, there is a chance that the feed may end when we hit the 1 hour mark. So just be mindful of that. If you stop seeing stuff on Instagram, you're probably going to want to go over to YouTube to see the rest of it. Now, the app that we're using to do this, StreamYard, said that may not happen, but I just want to prepare you for that if it does happen. We're going to switch gears now. We're going to talk about something that I feel like you probably didn't see coming, and that's puppets. And more specifically, a puppet show about thrifting, starring myself and Jem and Kirsten and Karl. Not to brag, everything in this video is secondhand, and I'm really proud of what we were able to pull off. So let's watch some puppets.
Kirsten, thank you so much for taking me thrifting with you, but I confess I'm a little apprehensive. Aren't secondhand clothes dirty? I mean, is it really safe to wear them?
Well, fortunately, we live in the golden era of laundry detergent and washing machines. So I do recommend that anything you buy thrifting, you should wash if possible when you get home, and wash it carefully. Follow the washing instructions on the care labels inside the garments. But I have to say, with such a volume of clothing coming into thrift stores, an entire team sorting this on a regular basis, you're really only going to see the best of the best out on the sales floor, stuff that is clean, in good condition, and really ultimately immediately wearable.
Wow. Well, what else can I thrift besides clothing?
Just about anything you can imagine. Home goods, throw pillows, bedding, dishes, appliances, books, craft supplies, fabric. I could go on all day. There is so much stuff at every thrift store. And what you'll find over time is certain thrift stores, once you get into your own sort of routine and circuit, will be best for certain categories of things. Like I have a favorite thrift store for books. I have another favorite thrift store for dishes. And of course, favorite thrift stores for clothes.
Well, but how do you even begin to find all this stuff?
Well, that's the thing about thrifting. You're not always going to find exactly what you want on the first try. And sometimes it's going to take a few weeks or a few stops. So here's what I do. It all starts with this little handy device, your phone. Dun, 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 dun. I keep a running list in my phone. You can use your Notes app, or you can even open a Google Doc, like download the Google Drive app. And it's all the things I'm looking for. And I add onto it as I think of things. I add sizes and measurements for specific size items like, bedding, curtains, furniture, and of course, clothing. And I always like to reference my list before I go into the thrift store just to keep it fresh in my mind. Because, sometimes you're looking for so much stuff that you forget about it. And of course, that's when you encounter it at the thrift store. But wait, there's more. Always bring cash. You would be surprised by how many thrift stores only accept cash, and there's nothing worse than finding all your favorite stuff, all the things on the list on your phone in one trip, and then getting up to the checkout to discover they only take cash. There's always an ATM far away. It's really stressful, and you just don't need that, right? So bring cash with you.
Okay, but how do you find clothes that fit you?
Well, once again, you're going to have your phone, which is filled with measurements of favorite items that you already own. So for example, Karl, if you were in the market for some pantaloons, you would
Indeed I am.
Of course. You would already have the measurements of your favorite pair of pantaloons in your phone ready to check as you get into the thrift store. But that means you need something else very important. You need a tape measure. I carry one in my purse everywhere I go because you never know when you're going to end up at a thrift store ready to measure some pantaloons. But beyond carrying a tape measure everywhere, it's really important to remember that most thrift stores closed their fitting rooms at the beginning of the pandemic and they still haven't reopened them. So either you're going to want to measure things by carrying your tape measure, or you should wear comfortable clothing that you can easily try on clothes over. So don't go in like, I don't know, with the outfit I'm wearing right now, because I'm going to have a difficult time trying on other clothes over a dress and a bonnet and an apron and whatnot. Wear, leggings, a tank top, things that are easy for trying on stuff. See, look, those look great on you. I think they're your size. Another piece of advice is that, many thrift stores do separate their clothing by sizes, but the reality is that most sizes on labels right now they're nonsense, right? So I actually look at all sizes in every section. I'm usually not looking for every type of clothing when I go shopping. I'm looking for one category of clothing specifically. So I have time.
Bonnets, for instance.
Yeah, bonnets or pantaloons. And so I'll just look at everything on the pantaloon or bonnet aisle and measure them.
You never know, huh?
You never know, because the size on labels, it's just arbitrary at this point.
Plop.
I also would say that, thrifting can be really exhausting and it can be stressful sometimes, especially if the stores are really busy. So I try to skip busier times like Saturday if I can. And I always remember that I might not find the pantaloons I'm looking for at the first thrift store or even the third, and it might take me a couple weeks, but when I do find it, it'll be the best pair of pantaloons I could find.
Cheapers, Kirsten, your cart is super full. Are you actually going to buy everything in there?
Of course not. But the thing about thrifting is you got to keep flowing. So I just go down the aisles. I pick the things that I think I'd want to buy. And at the end, I do the big sort, which to me is kind of the most fun part of the whole thing, especially if you have a friend like you along, Karl, who can help me talk through what I'm going to do. So I always ask myself these questions. Will I really wear this? I have a bad habit of buying bathrobes that I think I can wear as a dress, and then I just need someone to tell me that no, they obviously are a bathrobe.
I'm here for you, Kirsten.
I appreciate that, Karl. Don't let me buy another bathrobe that I think looks like a dress.
Friends don't let friends.
Next, I ask, will I really use this? Because there's a lot of cool stuff to be found thrifting, and sometimes you get in that scarcity mindset where you're like, oh my goodness, I might never see this again. So I have to really have a critical conversation with myself. Will I really use this? Where will this live in my house? This is really important with tchotchkes and wall art and stuffed animals and bits of furniture and things like that. Like, do I really have space for this? Or am I just buying it because it's cool and it's right here? And the last thing I ask, which, seems like a silly question, but do I really need or want this? Or am I just caught up in the moment? Because thrift shopping is really exciting.
Exhilarating.
Right? It is, and you never know what you're going to find along the way. So I call this catch and release. If I don't have a real use for it or really truly need or want it, release it back into the wild so someone else can have their best thrift find ever. Well, Karl, I think we've reached the point in our thrifting where we can go get some tacos.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. All this thrifting really made me hungry.
Wow. Jem, when I said to you, hey, will you come down here to Lancaster, I guess you were coming down, and help me out with this episode, did you see puppetry in your future?
I didn't dare.
I felt like I was really connected to my character, Kirsten, and it was a natural transition. But for you, how did you get into the character of Karl, a puppet that I handed you right before we started?
Well, I like to say about Karl that he really put the dog in Dogma 95.
Wow. Is Karl a dog? I was unsure. Like, Karl is a thrifted puppet, an amazing thrifted puppet. if he is a dog, what kind of breed do you think he is?
I'd say he's at least 3/4 Schnauzer.
Yeah.
My suspicion is that his backstory has something to do with the prevalence of dog breeding in this district.
Oh, yeah, it's true.
And that he may have been off goods from like
sad. Those are always the best dogs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's definitely Lutheran, as I believe so is Kirsten. And I think that may be how they met.
Yeah, I think that they met at church. I think you're right.
Sure, yeah.
It's interesting. Also did not see a puppet show being a part of this live episode, but literally our first thrifting trip, when we arrived here in Lancaster County, the next day, Christine of Lady Hog Vintage was with us. We hit up all my favorite stores.
Talk about pressure.
I know. And I found that shopping cart, and I thought, there's something to this. I'm going to use this. And a month or so later, I was sitting right here at the candy factory, and I turned to Dustin and I said, hey, you ever see any puppet theaters on Facebook Marketplace? And wouldn't you know, we found one. Dustin drove all the way to Reading, which was a pretty decent drive, to pick it up. I'm very grateful for Jem helping me glue all that fruit on there. It was not easy.
Yeah, it turns out grapes aren't a great shape
it's too bad.
To hot glue to flat surfaces. We learned that the hard way.
It made me actually want even more fake fruit. Even though it was challenging to glue it on there, I'm realizing now I want to make a whole wall of fake fruit. And I don't want to spoil an announcement that's going to be coming later in this episode, but all of you regular listeners already know the Clotheshorse Jamboree will be coming up in a few months. And I kind of am thinking that I'd like to make a whole photo booth of faux fruit, a vineyard of sorts. So I don't know. I think this might be a collective effort where I'm going to need everybody to liberate the artificial fruit from every one of their thrift stores and send it to me, because I was shocked by the amount of faux fruit consumed by the puppet
Can you
theater.
imagine if you got a P.O. box?
P.O. box just for fruit, yes. I mean, the only thing better than getting an edible arrangement is a box of artificial fruit. Let's be honest. I'm sorry, just looking at these grapes here feels me.
Speak for yourself, joy. Amanda, but I am glad to know that all of those artificial grapes have got a fancier right here.
They bring me joy. Shout out if you love artificial fruit. Tell us in the comments. Okay, let's take another question from Instagram, and this one comes from Kate. I thought this was a great question. I loved sitting down and thinking about this. You knew a lot about the topics we explore on Clotheshorse from earlier portions of your career. What was the most surprising thing you learned for the first time through Clotheshorse? Wow, so many things. I will say like the first 10, 20 episodes, well, that's not true. Even that Delia's episode, I learned so much. But the first year of Clotheshorse was, there's still a lot of research involved, and speaking about sustainability confidently was like a lot of work, and I was taking classes online and stuff to get my skills up there. But it was after that first 6 months or so where the research got really intense and hasn't let up since then, which is fine because I love that. And so I was trying to think of like, what were some of the biggest things that I'd learned over the past few years, which I've learned a lot. One was about the global secondhand trade and its impact on the global South. For me, the episodes with the Orr Foundation were like radicalizing for me. I think they made me realize I wanted to double down on everything I was doing here. And I'm going to tell you, like that series of recordings, it made me feel sick. It made me feel angry. It made me feel frightened. It made me feel kind of hopeless sometimes. And I actually think a lot about the way I felt as I was learning that stuff about from the Orr Foundation, about the impact of fast fashion on the global South. And I sort of channel that when I'm thinking about how I'm going to talk to other people about fast fashion and slow fashion, and how I'm going to share that information, and how I'm going to, be comfortable with their reactions. Because when I heard all that stuff from the Orr about like what was going on in Ghana, I wanted to go outside and just like scream at the sky, which I do often actually, but usually it's only because of Instagram comments. This was like, and I know that feeling so well. And so when I'm talking to all of you or someone new about something really grim and shocking, I remember that feeling, and I think about how I would have wanted someone to best approach me at that time, the sort of like comfort I needed in that moment. I also was shocked to learn about the scale of textile waste in this world. I kind of always knew it was happening, but not to the extent that it is. How polyester is made. I always knew it was made from fossil fuels, but that's as far as it went. Amazing, but like in a depressing way, to learn that polyester is the same exact fiber used to make plastic water bottles. It's just treated differently. Also, just knowing that polyester clothing sheds microplastics everywhere it goes. Another shocking thing for me to learn, but also like deeply impactful in terms of how I talk about this kind of stuff. I loved learning about EPR, otherwise known as extended producer responsibility, and how that could change everything. The history of thrift stores, you would think as a very avid, lifelong thrifter that I would be up on that, but actually doing that series of research, which was really more of a thing for the department, but also happened here in Clotheshorse. I loved that. And most recently, I have to say the most surprising thing I've learned was the origins of the phrase no ethical consumption under capitalism, which I assumed was something that happened that like one day I missed class in college and it was all Karl Marx and it was this lofty idea. And then it turns out it came from Tumblr. So that was a life changer for me. So great question, Kate. And actually, Kate is a major overachiever, which is a feeling I can understand as an overachiever myself. And Kate not only submitted that amazing question, she also sent in an audio message. So, and before we play it, Dustin merged it with an amazing horse care video. And I want to be clear that that's not Kate in there, nor Kendall Jenner, as Jem suspected. So let's take a listen to what Kate has to say.
Hey everyone, my name is Kate, and I discovered Clotheshorse through a friend's Instagram page back in January of 2023. I was driving from New Jersey to Virginia by myself, and I started with the episodes about sizing featuring Meredith. I was hooked. For the 200th episode, I just wanted to call and say thank you to Amanda and the whole Clotheshorse community. I know Amanda mentioned in episode 196 that she had a particular reaction to being deemed an activist, but I have another title I think she should try on for size. Educator. I have learned so much I never knew before listening to Clotheshorse, from the impacts the fast fashion industry has on the globe, and particularly the global south, to building my own laundry quandary kits thanks to the laundry sods. I've changed my own day-to-day behaviors as a result of this new knowledge. I've done what I can to substantially cut back on buying new clothing, and for the first time in my life, I've started shopping primarily secondhand and from small businesses because I believe that small business is the future. Estate sales have been a revelation, so shout out to Jenny for that amazing episode. I tell my friends, my family, heck, anybody who's going to listen to me about what I'm learning because I believe that is important for all of us. I'm just one person, but I'm proof that Clotheshorse is having an impact in the world. I am sure there are more people out there like me. So thank you, Amanda, for educating me and the Clotheshorse community. Thank you for all the hard work you put into the pod. It is abundantly evident that you spend long hours doing thorough research, reading and thinking and writing about these topics, and that you're thoughtful about how you package that information for us on the pod and on Clotheshorse's rad Instagram. And on a personal note, I also wanted to say thank you because while this might sound cheesy, it's true that Clotheshorse has been like a friend to me in the past few years. When I'm having a hard day or on the occasions that I've felt sad or afraid, I turn on a Clotheshorse episode and I always feel better. It always focuses me on matters greater than myself, makes me feel as though I'm not alone, and having the pod to listen to has truly had tangible benefits for my mental health. So thank you to Amanda and to the Clotheshorse community. Here's to another 200 episodes.
Wow. That's probably like the 10th time I've heard Kate's message, and I tear up every single time. It's the part where she talks about finding comfort with Clotheshorse and thanks me and the community for being there. And that's because for me, Clotheshorse has also changed my life. I have always felt like an outsider, a weirdo, whether it was at work or school or even with my family. And I mean, many of you who've been listening for a long time know that like I don't even have a relationship with my mother and her family anymore. And so my sense of being alone has sort of like grown over the years. But then Clotheshorse came into my life and it helped me find my people, find my voice, and feel very connected to everything and everyone around me. So thank you to all of you, like Kate, who show up time and time again. I'm getting like a little emotional right now because it is something I never had that I feel so lucky to have every single day now. And your support and your care and your kindness, it means so much to me. I also say, I know I was like, I don't know about being called an activist, but I do like Kate's idea of the title of educator. I've been thinking a lot about how I can reach more people and educate them. Like poor Dustin, he just has to be with me 24 hours a day, every day. And I'll be like, wouldn't it be great if I could go on a tour of churches and talk to people about that? Or like, how do we meet more children without being creeps? Like, I'm always thinking about like, how can we reach more people? But it's not even just me, it's all of you reaching more people too. And so I'm always thinking of new ideas there. I love to hear from all of you. Obviously, I'm just one person, but we're all in this together. And I love hearing from any of you that you like held a session at your library or at lunch at work. And like, how can I help you educate the people around you as well? Like, what tools can I help you have? So something to think about. You can talk about it in the chat right now if you want to, or you can email me with some ideas you have. Okay, well, let's be honest. No Clotheshorse extravaganza is ever complete without Clotheshorse All-Star and, of course, Halloween Queen, Maggie Green. And I have word on the street is that Maggie is wearing an exceptional outfit for tonight's show. I saw photos. I support a pink look. Let's see what Maggie has to say.
Hey, Amanda and Clotheshorse community members, Maggie Green here. My pronouns are she, her, and I am the CEO and weirdo in residence at Self Magnitude, which I describe as an ethical micro business on a mission to transform how you see yourself. And I just wanted to take a few minutes to say congratulations on your 200th episode. It's been an amazing journey following along over the last 4 years. I cannot believe it's been so long and that in that time you've produced 200 episodes. That is bananas. Congratulations. I know it takes a lot of hard work and time and energy and resources, and I just want you to know that what you're doing is important, it matters, and it's made a huge impact on my life, both professionally and personally. So let's talk a little bit about that. What drew me to Clotheshorse? What does it mean for me? Why do I keep listening? What keeps me engaged? And I'll tell you, it really is about shared values. You talk a lot about authenticity and sustainability and transparency. And I felt like, you really saw me. I felt super connected and aligned with those values, with your ethics, with your approach to education and empowerment, relative to our relationship to clothes. It's not just clothes, and I knew that, right? I felt that for a long time. I felt excluded and othered by the fashion industry, and discovering Clotheshorse was like a beacon of hope. It was definitely validation for some things that I had been feeling and thinking for many years. And I just want to thank you for all you do, all you are, and everything that you have produced to foster this amazing community. So definitely shared values. Of course, I have favorite episodes, but I don't want to mention those here. What I want to say is, it's been amazing to have the opportunity to contribute to the show, especially after being a long-time loyal listener for so long, being able to connect with you in real time as a human being. I value our friendship and connection so much, and the chance to have contributed to the show has been really meaningful for me. In fact, you're referring to me as an all-star guest was definitely a high point. I still consider it a gold star on my resume to this day. And you, Amanda of Clotheshorse, were the very first person to ever refer to me in a professional context as the Halloween Queen, and I will never forget that as long as I live. So thank you. A quick note on Halloween. So in addition to shared values, clearly we have shared interests as well, Halloween being one of those. The fact that you consider me and trust me as a resource on the topic is super gratifying. I continue to feel inspired and energized by past conversations around Halloween and what the future holds around the holiday. So I'm excited to see what comes next for 2024. And yeah, I just want to thank everyone who listens, who tunes into the show, who supports your work. Thank you everyone for engaging on social media. It makes a big difference, right? It helps with visibility. I think it's really important, especially as a small business owner, that, we have each other's backs, as fellow humans, but also small business owners as well. There aren't a lot of people looking out for us, and that's certainly true of the fashion industry. It's super exclusionary. It does not give a shit about us as individuals. And frankly, your guidance around not giving money to assholes has stuck with me. I bring it up a lot in client conversations, to your credit, of course. It's a very clear and succinct way of getting to the heart of the matter. And yeah, I just want to say how much I appreciate that. I appreciate the opportunity to contribute here. I'm super excited about the multimedia extravaganza. I will definitely be tuning in and can't wait to engage with folks in the chat. You cannot see, but Cyrus is here with me as well on my desk, cheering you on too. So hello from Cyrus to everyone out there listening. Thank you for existing. Thank you for all you do, and congratulations again, Clotheshorse and Amanda, for all you've accomplished so far.
Thank you, Maggie, and of course, Cyrus, for such an amazing video. I have to say, I can never get enough cat content, so please keep sending me videos of your cats, photos of your cats, what have you, of your cats. Not the cat litter per se, or hairballs, but
Perhaps
just general cat content. I always love seeing. It's kind of sad that Brenda's not here, especially since we included her in the credits and possibly got her canceled on the internet for biting me.
Assault,
yeah.
Brenda.
I will say I don't feel so lucky that Brenda bites me on Instagram Live, but I do feel so lucky to have become real friends with Maggie over the past few years, and I'm really looking forward to this year's Halloween episode. I don't want to get any of you too excited, but after years of searching, I think we found someone who works in the Halloween costume industry. I know, it's very top secret, and I think it's because if it weren't, it would ruin Halloween.
I think it's because of all the Scorpios, but
if they were Scorpios, they'd be really perverted. I don't know.
Halloween, Amanda.
Anyway, yeah, and I just have to say that Clotheshorse has connected me with people that I would have never met otherwise. And although I have a complicated relationship with social media, like some days I do have to walk outside and scream at the sky. It's a good thing that I live in a rural area now and I'm no longer like inflaming next door. I also am constantly aware in awe of social media's power to bring people together, if it's used properly, right? And it's something I think about a lot. Like if you had told me, I don't know, like 5 years ago that I would spend hours every day creating content for Instagram, moderating the comments, thinking about how it can be better, answering messages, all that stuff, I would have been like, huh? Why does anyone care about me on Instagram? But I have to say, like, I see how successful, how powerful social media can be for connecting people, just as it can also be powerful for dividing people, right? And I am always constantly asking myself, like, how can I do better? So I'm always, asking myself, like, how can I create posts with the best amount of nuance and compassion? Because both of those are often lacking on social media. Moderating the comments, I think, is a really big deal because I want Clotheshorse to be a safe place everywhere it exists, to be a place where people feel comfortable being themselves and saying what they think and sharing information and getting to know one another. So I'm constantly in there. You don't want to know about my screen time on my phone. I try to ignore it now. I myself try to join the conversation as much as possible, not just like posting and running away. And I do my best to create positive conversations and positive content that actually has like a call to action, actionable items within it. And I'll say, like, a study just came out like 2 weeks ago that was like, hey, the best thing you can post on social media in terms of engagement to get your work out there is something really negative and inflammatory. And I refuse to do that because I think there's too much of that right now. So it's something that I'm constantly pondering. How can it be better? I have multiple boards of every single Instagram post I've ever done. And I always go back and say, like, how could that be better, right? How could we reach more people? How could it be better? How could the information be better and more digestible? And I am just constantly thinking about how we can greet everybody with kindness and compassion and understanding. And that all starts with nuance. Jem, you were on quite an Instagram break for a while, just social media as general. How does it feel to be back? Because I'm in it every day, and I feel like sometimes I open it and I'm like, whoa, this is so weird right now. How does it feel to take a break and then come back to where we are now on social media?
To be honest, I had some real shell shock. I wasn't expecting it to be all ads. Like it is.
True story.
And so now, having been back for approximately a month, I can tell you that pretty much, and you know this because I've been staying in your house for the past couple of days, all I do now is watch Patti Smith's evening read.
That's great content.
It's spectacular. Really, seriously, guys. On Substack, follow Patti Smith. Everything she is churning out is just like heavenly transmissions.
Yeah. That's
absolute pure love.
That's some great advice. Here's what I feel about social media, especially now it's like so ad heavy more than ever. You know what? Social media taught us to buy too many clothes and only wear them once and take photos of food and not even eat it and who knows what else. What if we could use social media to undo that? And I actually think we're already starting to do that because we're seeing these conversations start on social media and go out into real life. Amazing. And so we just need to keep that momentum and keep recognizing and speaking with compassion and kindness and, most importantly, nuance.
And I do think there's something to be said for thinking of social media as a tool.
Yes.
Versus as some kind, I don't know what the alternative is. I don't have the right language for it, but but to think of it as something where you're like, ultimately what I want to do is I want to interact with other people, whether that be on the phone or, there's so many ways now. So why would you want to spend all your valuable bandwidth as a human being, like swatting away basically the psychic equivalent of mosquitoes?
Yeah, I think that's a great way to put it.
When you could just be like, surrounded by butterflies or something nice.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think this is something for all of us to like have a little bit of a think about and how we can do it even better. Okay, well, I have another message that was from someone I met through Maggie. It's Ruby of Spokes and Stitches, who actually
we should mention, this is Ruby and Maggie of
the edible arrangement. Yes, once again, let's all bask in the glory of the best gift you can ever give anyone in the history of mankind, womankind, humankind.
Less trolls, more edible arrangements.
Seriously,
already.
I want a bumper sticker that says that. I might have to make a post about that this week. Less trolls, more edible arrangements. Who's in?
Or they can be trolls. I just want them to be the
cute ones with the hair.
Little jewels in their tummies.
There's someone in this room that none of you who are watching this can see who loves trolls, and that is Mr. Justin Travis White. So you're speaking his language. I saw him perk up a little bit when you said that. Okay, so yes, I have another message. This one's from Maggie, and I don't want anybody to be jealous, but Maggie was actually my first guest here in Lancaster County a few weeks ago, and it was the best day ever. Oh, I said Maggie. I'm sorry. I said Maggie. I meant Ruby. Sorry, guys. It's late. I'm just getting tired. Ruby. Okay, let's listen to what Ruby has to say.
Hi, Amanda. This is Ruby from Spokes and Stitches. Congratulations on 200 episodes. So exciting. I wanted to share that your podcast has completely transformed my personal outlook on the fashion industry. I first started listening to Clotheshorse probably about a year and a half ago when I was commuting an hour each way to work. Your earnestness and your fresh perspective kept me company as I drove on all of these stressful highways to a job that was underpaid because, as you say, we were just so lucky to be there and to have a creative job at all. I went to undergrad for fashion design in New York City, and I have had a pretty fraught relationship to the fashion industry over the 12 years since I graduated. I've kind of bopped between full-time jobs that were too stressful to really stick around for too long, and then all these freelance side gigs that never really paid my bills. I always felt like I was kind of doing it wrong, or that something must be wrong with me. And even early in my career, I felt like I could sort of see these cracks in the industry that nobody else seemed aware of. And it was so comforting to find your podcast because it made me feel so much less alone. It's so wonderful to know that there's a whole community of people out there who were drawn into fashion because of the creative aspect or the self-expression aspect, and then really disappointed and disillusioned when they finally began working in the industry and saw kind of what it actually was. So I really appreciate all of the work you do to educate the public about this industry. Over the course of listening, I have particularly enjoyed the episode you did with Dylan about what it's like to work in the back of a thrift store. I seriously had absolutely no idea, and I think so much differently now about what I donate and like when I donate stuff and which thrift stores I'm donating to. And I also really enjoyed the episodes you did with Maggie and Tracy about how to do laundry. I also reference those episodes quite frequently when I'm trying to figure out how to remove a stain, or how to treat, a particular, a particular laundry problem. And I've also just really appreciated getting to know you as a person. You are so forthright with, who you are and your perspectives on the industry, and, you're sharing your own personal life stories with your audience. And it's just really wonderful to know you. And I also appreciate being invited to be a guest on several past episodes about gender and dress codes. It's been super fun, and I'll never stop referring folks to your podcast because you have the ability to explain things in a way that is just so succinct and on the nose. And it's like you take these concepts that are kind of convoluted, like maybe something like free shipping or minimum order quantities, and you break them down in a way that's easy for someone who doesn't work in the industry to understand. That is such a special skill. And sometimes when I feel like I can't explain something well, I'm like, you just got to listen to Clotheshorse. Amanda's got you. So thanks again for all you do, and I can't wait to listen to the next 200 episodes. Congrats.
Thank you so much, Ruby. That was such a lovely message. It was nice. I really love hearing nice things about myself, it turns out. At first it was uncomfortable, but now it's really getting me amped up over here. So thank you. I have to say, I have learned so much about myself via my work on Clotheshorse. And I think that I spent so many years just like working and taking care of others, trying to find my place in the world, that I didn't get enough time to learn what I like to do or what my true skills are. Like, I know I'm a speed reader. I'm good at math. I've always had straight A's. I did all of the extracurricular activities, but I don't know. I didn't know my true special skills. And we all have them. But I'm not talking about things that are like graded or appear on resumes, although I think Halloween Queen is great for the resume and should be on everyone's.
Well, I mean, those who are, in fact,
those who, and there is only one.
Yeah,
so we're talking to Maggie Green right now.
Really what you need to do is you need to find a succinct and rhyming way to
Yes.
characterize what you excel at.
I agree. But I do think that like my special skill that I didn't realize is that I'm good, like Ruby said, at taking complex stuff and like doing the research to understand it all and then breaking it down into a more understandable way. And I didn't know that was a thing that someone could do or people would appreciate. It's definitely work. There are times when my brain is like, nope, let's just lay down and think about Kirsten and edible arrangements and horses for a while. But, I enjoyed doing that work of like reading and reflecting and reading some more and drafting it and deleting it and constantly fine-tuning it. It actually, I don't know, I think that Clotheshorse gave me this chance to understand that about myself, and I was never going to get that from a job or school. Have you had the chance yourself to figure out what your special skills or I don't know, things you love to do are?
Well, I am currently working on my Substack, and I'm writing the story that I have in me, which is, it involves elves and a Norwegian cabin. There's a little bit of death metal, bisexual erotica.
This all adds up. I've known, Jem for a long time.
Yeah, we've known each other for, like almost half a lifetime at this point.
Yeah, it's wild. So this all...
I feel seen to know that you feel like my story tracks.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. And I guess I would just say, this is something we talk about a lot on Clotheshorse, is how does capitalism, how does work, our role as workers, how does that help or hinder doing and learning about who we really are and doing what we really want to do that makes us happy. So I feel very lucky that I got the opportunity to do that with Clotheshorse, because while I do love a spreadsheet, let's be honest, it wasn't exactly like, I feel like I'm giving back to the world,
Well, it was like you were saying earlier when you were getting prepared at the salon that we went to, and as you walked out, you said, gosh, they make it look so easy. And then we were saying that guy you talked to about spreadsheets was looking at you in the same way. And I guess that there's really something to that. If there's something and you do it, and I don't think you should say, because no one ever really looks at anyone and says, gosh, I'll bet they could make a lot of money doing that. Or the people who do aren't really people that you want to hang out with.
It's true.
But it's I think that's all part of these conversations, is getting in a conversation with somebody and saying to them, when you notice and recognize it, wow, I just could listen to you talk about spreadsheets all day long.
I did feel like that today in that meeting. I showed a client how to do a view lookup, and he said, "You're like Samuel L. Jackson in The Matrix." And I take that as a really great compliment.
But the thing is, I truly, genuinely believe everybody has something that will create that effect in others. And I think that part of all this, to quote Karl in the puppet theater, and his catchphrase, I think it's real bullplop that... we have all this stuff that we feel like we're chasing after it because it's somehow going to, make us happy.
Yeah.
When the truth is that what makes us happy is already in us. And the real trick is to get yourself into a place where you're able to bring it out. And there's all of these tools, like social media can be a tool, and fashion and clothing. Mm-hmm. All of it is. But ultimately, it's you're not going to be able to... to be you unless you figure out who that is.
So true. It's so true. I would love to hear from all of you in the chat. What is your special skill? Tell us. We want to hear all about it. We have another message. This one is from Susan. So let's take a listen.
First off, congratulations to Clotheshorse on their 200th episode. I'm Susan Kohler Custers. And slow fashion is important to me because it has made a significant difference in how I make choices about my wardrobe. Thinking of the closet as a metaphor, a representation of what can go wrong in the world and how it can be made right, I've certainly come a long way from where I started. Just a few years ago, my closet was overstuffed, unorganized, in disarray, full of one-offs that didn't go with anything else, and duplicate items, things I rarely wore or never wore. So much waste. After many extensive cleanouts and a deep analysis on why and how I was shopping, my closet now reflects the mindfulness I put into purchasing decisions. A great reduction in the consumption of fast fashion and all new clothes. I'm opting instead for shopping secondhand, selling and trading things from my closet, shopping small business with slow and low production runs, supporting local and woman-owned businesses. The whole process has led to feelings of peace and relief, clarity and intention, and it's been a great exercise for building confidence and sense of purpose. The Clotheshorse podcast has led to so many discoveries and inspirations, from visible mending to better understanding the fashion industry's impact on the environment and social justice, especially fast fashion. and what we're actually talking about when we talk about fast fashion. Amanda and her team and her guests have taught me the importance of slow fashion and how small business is the future. How shopping secondhand and wearing the clothes you have, buying less and better, will reduce waste and landfill to heal our ailing planet. The imperative to change our mindset and how we acquire, dispose of, and maintain our clothes. When it comes to fast fashion in particular, the revelations are shocking, though not surprising. I think we all knew deep down the detrimental impact on the planet, on social justice, income inequity, human and environmental health and safety all over the world. But it takes someone like Amanda to just say it out loud, often, continuously. Sometimes we need to be shocked into action. Amanda, thank you for being a truth teller, an important role in our society today as we reach a serious turning point. With the work you and your team are doing, there is great reason for optimism.
Thank you, Susan, for such a lovely message. I saw in the chat, I got to take a little peek, that Maggie found Susan's voice to be very soothing, and I agree. I think I was sort of zoning out. It was the most relaxed I felt like in 2 weeks, so I might have to just like play that recording to fall asleep every night.
It's like a brain massage.
It really was. Thank you so much, Susan. And you know, I really love hearing Susan say that she feels optimistic, because I feel very hopeful about the future, and I do truly believe that we are on the threshold of some major change this year. And I'm going to tell you, I did not feel that way when I started Clotheshorse in 2020. But right now, I'm seeing conversations on mainstream media outlets, not outfits, although that too, like morning talk shows and local news about fast fashion and mending and thrifting and so many other topics we've been discussing for years that we're really like in our bubble, we take as second nature, but really this is new to so many people. And furthermore, you know, it may not seem like it, but we've accomplished some really major things as a community and a movement over the past few years. So I sat down and sort of like made a list. I wanted to just like remind you of these things so you too could feel proud and optimistic. First thing is the pay up movement. And if this is new to you, back in 2020, all retailers and brands everywhere canceled everything they had on order at the beginning of the pandemic, whether that stuff was not made yet, was on the boat or on the plane across the ocean, or had already arrived here in the United States or at its final destination. And this, I mean, I've talked about this on Clotheshorse before. The last 2 weeks that I had a job in fashion, all I did was cancel everything on order, and it was brutal. I talked to sales reps who were crying, who later lost their jobs later that week, small brands and designers that went out of business. And it felt so wrong to me, because I knew that the company that I worked for had $100 million in the bank at any time, could have paid for all of those orders, still had plenty of money left over. And instead, they canceled all of those orders. And you know what? All the people involved in making those clothes and selling those clothes, of all of that stuff, they didn't get paid. They no longer had access to healthcare and food and an ability to pay their rent. And for the largely female workforce making all the stuff that we buy, specifically clothing, they were put in a more unsafe position now that they no longer were as financially independent. So this was, for me, one of the first times I'd seen activism really create this momentum on social media for a specific cause. And thanks to raising our voices collectively, we were able to get many brands that had previously canceled their orders to pay for them. And that included brands like Gap, H&M, Levi's, Zara, Uniqlo, Nike, and ASOS. These are huge companies that heard us and felt like this is important. We need to change what we're doing. We should all be proud of that. That is a really big deal. And I do think every time I talk about pay up, I think it's a good time to remind everyone to name the brands that refuse to pay. So let's just take a moment right now to talk about those brands. It's Free People, Anthropologie, Urban Outfitters, Nuuly, Ross, Walmart, Sears, The Children's Place, TJ Maxx, that includes Home Goods, and Marshalls, American Eagle Outfitters, which also includes Aerie, Kohl's. Did I say JCPenney yet? I don't think I did. Forever 21 as well. These are companies that said, hey, I hear what you're saying, and I don't care. Not only do I not care about the garment workers and all the people involved in the creation, selling, and shipping of clothing, not only do I not care about them, I don't care what my customers think of me, because they'll just come back and buy from me when they forget about this. And I want to remind you all that we have not forgotten about this. And I personally refuse when I say don't give money to assholes, these are the first people on my list that I refuse to give money to. I know that was a pretty negative way to end that accomplishment, but we still should be proud. What else have we accomplished? How about the mainstreamification of shopping secondhand? All of us who have been shopping secondhand for a long time, all of us lifetime thrifters, I know there's tons of you here right now, we, for a long time, were sort of like hit with this resistance to secondhand shopping, that it was dirty, that it was gross, and there was it was embarrassing. I literally grew up in a trailer park, and my family was embarrassed that I thrifted my clothing. This stigma was real, and it touched people across the socioeconomic spectrum. And guess what? Now, people are buying secondhand all the time. It's amazing. This is something that we did by normalizing it for so many other people. And that is a really big deal, because you know what? We're all going to have to get really comfortable with shopping secondhand for just about anything if we want to pull back and kind of try to mitigate the damage that overconsumption has done to our planet. What else? In 2022, the Garment Worker Protection Act was passed in California. This is a really big deal to me. This all happened because our community pushed for it. When I was working at ModCloth in downtown LA, when I would go into our bathroom, I could see across the street to the building across the way, and it was just floor after floor of women in their just hunched over sewing machines all day, all night, rolling racks, rolling in and out of that building with clothing all day. And the windows were always open. Why? Because there was no air conditioning. And it would be like the middle of summer in downtown LA. Jem has also lived in LA. I cannot imagine being in that building sewing all day. I mean, literal sweatshop.
Literal sweatshop. Yeah.
And many of these workers, not only were they working in bad conditions like that, they were often being underpaid and experiencing wage theft, because rather than being paid by the hour for their work, they were being paid by the piece, which left most of them making less than minimum wage. So thanks to the Garment Worker Protection Act passing in California, these workers are no longer experiencing wage theft, dangerous working conditions, and it is ensured that these workers are no longer paid by the piece, but rather by the hour. Really huge accomplishment that happened with all of this grassroots organizing, calling our representatives, signing petitions, sharing information. That all happened because of all of us. And of course, I can't leave out that the Fashion Act is up for consideration in New York State right now. This landmark legislation will force change around the world in the areas of chemical use, worker pay, overproduction, and so much more. We just did an episode about it a few weeks ago. You should go check it out if you haven't yet. You can learn more at thefashionact.org. But I also wanted to remind you, and I'll be talking about this more over the next few days, on May 7th, we are doing a lobbying day in Albany. We're all going to go up there. We're going to hold up signs. We're going to cheer. We're going to show the legislature that this is an important issue that we care about. And all of you are invited to Albany. So I'll share the information for you to sign up to come. But I would love for us to have a whole Clotheshorse contingent in Albany on May 7th. So yeah, the work isn't done. But wow, we have done so much, and everybody should be really proud. We're making it happen. All right, I have one final listener message. That's from Stacie of Rainbow Vintage. Let's take a listen.
Hi, I'm Stacie. I'm Rainbow Vintage on Instagram, and I do not like being on camera, so I'm just going to stare at the sunset. Really grateful to have Clotheshorse as a resource for learning about the fashion industry. It's confirmed all my worst suspicions about it. I always loved clothes, but had a feeling that it was not the career for me, and boy, oh boy, absolutely right. Thank God I did not pursue a career in fashion. It's also gotten me to think about my impact ecologically more than I used to. I was always a secondhand first because I'm a cheapskate, but now I'm thinking a lot more about my plastic use and things like that, especially microplastics. That's very disturbing to me. I never thought about it in terms of the things around us shedding plastic constantly, especially our clothes. So anyway, Clotheshorse really opened my eyes to that. But it also, and I'm more worried than ever about just the global disasters that mankind has been building for itself. But through Clotheshorse, I've found that I'm less alone than I thought I was. No matter how niche or petty my concern, there's somebody else out there that's also worrying about it. Probably a bunch of people. And a lot of them listen to Clotheshorse. So that's been reassuring. And also, I have a question in light of the AMA. This is niche and weird, and hopefully you will even remember what the hell I'm even talking about. But it struck me so much at the time that I was like, oh man, if I ever get to ask, I have to ask. Once on an episode a long time ago, I think it was episode 74, you said something about not getting a raise because your boss decided to buy her daughter a horse instead. Is that true? What happened there? Please tell that story. Anyway, thank you for making Clotheshorse. It's so satisfying. It's really good. Anyway, thank you.
I'm laughing about this horse story, and I'm glad that you asked, Stacie. I had to dig deep into my brain. I think I've compartmentalized a lot of the more unsavory aspects of working in a corporate environment, especially as a manager or in a leadership role, because you do a lot of stuff or have to do a lot of stuff that doesn't sit well with you. And one of those things is give performance reviews. Now, I know that there are some of you who are a big fan of performance reviews and feel that they can be very helpful, and I believe that in the right context, that can be true. But everywhere I've worked, there has been a sit-down meeting a few weeks before the review process begins where we're told, hey, listen, you're not really going to be able to give out much of a raise. We're talking 1% to 3%, 10 cents, 25 cents when I was working in the store. And what we're going to need you to do is write reviews for people that aren't completely discouraging, but aren't so positive that they will expect a bigger raise. So what we basically want you to do is let them down gently and make them feel like they don't deserve a raise. And so, here I am in another job where I'm like, got to do these performance reviews all week where I have to pretend that people don't deserve a raise. I do one after another. I just knock them out all week long. And on Friday, we're all sitting together at lunch, and my boss is there. And, normally everybody at that job just talked about The Bachelor all the time. Like, I was like, heaven is a place where I never have to talk about The Bachelor at work ever again. Fortunately, I'm there right now. And usually they would talk about The Bachelor, but then my boss... And this is after a week of no one getting raises and it being kind of like, well, maybe next year or maybe when business is different, what have you. My boss starts telling everyone about her intention to buy her daughter a horse and how expensive it was going to be, but it was worth it, and how she was going to buy her all these cute clothes, and they were shopping around.
Horse?
Hopefully, like a real My Little Pony scenario, and how they weren't going to just take the cheapest horse; they were going to buy the best quality horse, and it just going on and on about how much this was going to cost. And I'm sitting there, I can see the faces of the people who I manage who have just gotten these mediocre performance reviews from me by design, I can see them, like for a few of them, the math was suddenly mathing. And I was like, oh man, am I going to have to like talk to them about this? And after lunch, someone pulled me aside and said, hey, like, so I couldn't help but notice that like we don't get raises, but like our boss is paid so much that she is buying a horse, and not just any horse, like a really expensive horse. And I just had to be like, yeah, life is, it sucks. That's all I can say. And I'm sorry. And I can't believe that we just listened to that conversation. So that's the horse, the boss horse.
From the horse's mouth.
From the horse's mouth, if you will.
The gift horse, the actual gift horse.
Well, of horses. You know that this episode is coming to you live from Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, where we have many exquisite horses and my personal favorite, mules. We've got ponies. We've got miniature horses. We've got it all. And I feel very lucky that I get to call this place my home. So I thought we could take a little tour of some of my favorite places in Lancaster County. This year, Dustin and I moved back to Lancaster County, and I couldn't be happier. My brain is just so much happier. Right now, I'm hanging out here with two of my neighbors, Barb and Betsy, and I want to share with you some of my favorite places in Lancaster County. Of course, no tour of Lancaster County, or at least a Clotheshorse tour of Lancaster County, would ever be complete without some stops at some thrift stores. And we're getting that tour started here at one of my favorite thrift stores out here, the Main Street Closet. It's also, to be honest, the thrift store closest to my house. The Main Street Closet is part of a network of thrift stores across Lancaster County and really across the United States, run by the Mennonite Central Committee, also known as the MCC. Thanks to the hard work of the MCC, in 2017, the BBC called Lancaster America's refugee capital, because the MCC does a lot of incredible work relocating refugees here to Lancaster County and has been doing this for decades. Beyond that, the MCC also provides assistance around the world to people dealing with famine, hunger, displacement, war, dangerous, terrible life circumstances. For example, right now, the MCC is providing food, hygiene items, and even cash to people in Gaza. So when I shop at a thrift store run by the MCC, I feel like, one, I'm getting that benefit of shopping secondhand, but two, the money I'm spending is actually going out there and helping people all around the world, even here in Lancaster County. Furthermore, all of us who live here in Lancaster County get to enjoy the benefits of living within a vibrant, diverse community, which is not something that you often get to experience when you live in a rural area. So I am a proud supporter of all the MCC thrift stores out here, and I promise this is not the last MCC thrift store we'll be stopping at on our tour. Okay, I'm going to preface this by saying that this isn't necessarily one of my favorite places in Lancaster County, but it is one of the weirdest places here in Lancaster County, which is saying a lot. But I also think it's a really great illustration of what you can do when you work with others to fight for something that is important to you. And this literally has nothing to do with environmentalism or slow fashion. So where I'm standing right now, well, I'm standing next to a cemetery. This is a cemetery from the 1700s. But not only am I standing next to a cemetery, I'm standing next to a Whole Foods. And it's a Whole Foods in a larger shopping complex, like with a Target and a Michael's and a Nordstrom Rack and all kinds of stuff, called the Shops at Belmont. And the very long story short here is that when developers bought this parcel of land, which was once a farm, the cemetery was here, right? Because these people have been here for like hundreds of years now. And when people in the community saw the architectural plans for this space, they noticed that the cemetery was gone. It was not included anywhere on it. And people who are, advocates for protecting cemeteries, especially historic cemeteries, but cemeteries as a whole, really stepped in and said, hey, where is the mayor's cemetery? That's what this is called. What was your plan here? And as far as I can tell, the plan was to turn this into a parking lot on the side of Whole Foods. What really happened after enough people stepped forward, showed up at meetings, made their voice heard, is that Yes, they still built a Whole Foods. Yes, they still built a big shopping center, but they did protect this cemetery. And like, we're literally right by the dumpsters of the Whole Foods and in the side of the parking lot. It's really, really weird, but I think it's a good illustration of how standing up for what you believe and meeting other people who share your beliefs and working with them can actually make stuff happen, even if it's kind of weird and it's a cemetery next to a Whole Foods. The next thrift stop on our tour is the Reuse It shop in New Holland, which I would say is probably the most widely known thrift store out here in Lancaster County. It's another one run by the MCC. And, you know, standard thrift store advice that I give everyone is like, don't go out assuming you're gonna find something on one stop. Sometimes it takes a few trips, a few days, a few months. But I will say, when it comes to anything like home oriented, like kitchen supplies, appliances, rugs, towels, etc., I do always find them on the first stop at Reuse It. Also, Reuse It has a huge craft section. I found so many amazing latch hook kits there, lots of great fabrics, sewing notions, artificial flowers, candles, planters, you name it. This is definitely my one-stop shop for anything I need for our home or a gift. I can't say enough great things about the Reuse It, and if you stop at one thrift store in Lancaster County, this should be the one. No tour of my favorite places in Lancaster County would be complete without a stop in Bird in Hand, Pennsylvania, which is where Dustin and I lived before we moved to Austin. And right now I'm in front of the Bird in Hand post office, where the official Clotheshorse post office box was for quite a while. In fact, now that I'm standing here, I'm like, should I get a post office box here again? Anyway, Bird in Hand is about, I don't even know if the main drag is a mile long, but there's an amazing farmer's market. There's some awesome vintage here, lots of great places to eat, and just generally like a fun and cute place to come and walk around. Also, best name, right? So of course, we just stop here in Bird in Hand. About you, but I feel like there are not enough horses on signs out there in the world. There's just not enough horse visibility in the world of advertising. So first time I saw this sign behind me, I was really, really excited to see finally more horses on signs. So the chip sign, that's the name of the horse. Unfortunately, the chip sign has been through it the past few years, but I do remember a simpler time in 2021 when this sign still looked amazing. This is the chip sign, which is a landmark to me out here in Lancaster County. I always get excited when I go by it. It is a way Dustin and I talk about which direction we're about to head. It's always in relation to the chip sign. And sometimes, if you're really lucky, you actually get to see Chip out here. Okay, right now we have a twofer for you. I'm here at a destination that I visit just about every week. It's sort of like the halfway point on my thrift circuit, and two great businesses that share a parking lot. One is Goods, which is a locally owned department store, and it's really designed to serve what are called the plain people, which are Mennonite and Amish people. And we actually shop there when we need any sort of like hardware or home goods supply. They do only sell black shoes and white underwear, which makes them not quite as useful for me. But like I said, great home goods. If I need a shovel, bird feed, jars, what have you, they have it here at Goods. Plus, I like knowing that I'm spending money in my community. Across the parking lot is a place that if you ever visit me in Lancaster County, I'm surely going to drag you there, and that is Shady Maple, which is a massive locally owned grocery store, amazing produce, good prices, but most importantly, the best donuts I've had in my life. And Dustin and I try to come here almost every week and pick up a few donuts to have as a little treat. And yeah, that's all I can say. People come from miles around to try out the donuts here. They're a must stop for anyone who's out here in Lancaster County. As a bonus, when you visit this sort of complex right here, there's an incredible locally owned nursery where you can get good plants for your yard or in your house. Alpacas are raised next door for their yarn. And across the road here, we have some miniature horses. So really, what more could you ask for from your visit from Lancaster County than to come out here to this parking lot where I am right now? The last thrift store we're going to visit on our tour is the Country Gift and Thrift Shop, otherwise known, or at least what we call it, the Chopay. I have to tell you, probably the first 20 times I drove by this place, I didn't realize it was a thrift store, but actually it's another amazing thrift store owned and run by the MCC, and it's an amazing place to find craft supplies and books. They have an entire department that is just secondhand craft supplies, including never used kits and very well organized fabric. They also have an entire entry area that is just vintage and antique stuff, all really reasonably priced. So for me, the Chopay is a do not miss when you come out to Lancaster County. No tour of my favorite places in Lancaster County would be complete without a stop at BB's, which, to be honest, is not only one of my favorite places out here, but also Dustin's. And BB's is actually a locally owned grocery store. There are a couple locations across Lancaster County that sells food that is just about to expire or was excess production by the food manufacturer, produce that's got like 1 or 2 good days left in it, that kind of thing. And when I think about what the slow fashion way of life is, what I really think about is how all of these different systems impact our planet and where we play into that. And one of those is food waste, which every year across the planet, billions of tons of food are wasted. And, you know, I think it can be as simple as not eating your leftovers, and so you should eat those, but it can also just be these systems that exist where food is overproduced and ends up being destroyed. And so we do a lot of our grocery shopping here because we also find things here that we generally couldn't really afford to buy on a regular basis, like kombucha and protein bars and other organic items. So this is a regular stop for us, and I would just say for anyone who's passing through Lancaster County, even if you don't live out here, this is a great place to pop in for snacks, you know, protein bars, juices, kombucha, all the things that make life just a little nice when you're on the road. But also, I'm really excited that I get to support this local business and help fight food waste. The final stop on the tour of my favorite places in Lancaster County is obviously my house. We've got amazing neighbors here: goats, cows, birds, even some ducks. And I feel so lucky to be able to make a home here in Lancaster County. I promise you that if you visit me here, I will try to convince you to move here. Which reminds me of a very special announcement that I have to make, which is that you can actually come out here and hang out with me in Lancaster County this summer for the Clotheshorse Jamboree, our first one ever. It's happening August 16th through the 18th here in Lancaster, and we're gonna do all kinds of fun things. We're gonna talk about thrifting and mending, we're gonna make some cool stuff, and most importantly, we're gonna have a really good time. So keep your eyes peeled, more information will be coming soon. Tickets will go on sale on May 15th, and we have a very limited number of tickets to sell for this first round of the Clotheshorse Jamboree, so definitely keep on the lookout for all that. All right, thank you so much, and yeah, come to Lancaster County. You have no idea how excited everyone in this room became when we got to the BB segment. There was a lot of cheering for the freezer coats. BB's definitely a hit. I know you went, Jem, without me, which I was like, whoa. You came back giddy with excitement.
And I invited Dustin to come, but he had so much work to do editing, and I could tell that he was really sad and felt like bereft.
I mean, I was sad. I was like, should I just cancel my next meeting to go to BB's? But maybe we'll go tomorrow. Anyway, filming all that stuff was so awkward. I remember specifically when we were outside the Main Street Closet, which is on quite a busy street, Willow Street, in a town called Willow Street, and people kept honking or stopping. Like, they were like, oh man, like, are you famous? Like, am I going to be on TV? And people kept coming up and asking questions, and it was so embarrassing to me. And I just tried to remember Kim Lemon. Kim Lemon was a reporter on the local news here in central Pennsylvania when I was growing up, and I thought, Kim Lemon, I need to channel my inner Kim Lemon when I'm out here in the field making video. And once again, making video, very vulnerable, kind of like new to me, definitely uncomfortable, especially when people are honking at me while they drive by. But you know what? I think it worked out pretty well. I think I made Kim Lemon proud.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you are my personal Kim Lemon.
Wow. I also like that's like a fruit name. If your name is Kim Lemon, you have to be famous on local news, right?
Yeah, because otherwise people are just like, what's up? What's up with you having the last name Lemon?
What's up with that? I've never known anyone with that name.
Well, they're just like, well, it's such a television news name.
It really is. It really was. Anyway, as I announced in the video, the Clotheshorse Jamboree is happening August 16th through 18th here in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Tickets will go on sale on May 15th. Availability will be limited, so you don't want to snooze on it. Stay tuned. More information will be coming soon. Okay, well, as Boys to Men is known for saying, we have officially come to the end of the road of this episode, not of Clotheshorse, just of this episode. And so it's time for me to channel my inner Sally Jesse Raphael and give you some final thoughts. Imagine a softer light, maybe some soft music, definitely not an air horn. I've spent most of my life before Clotheshorse feeling that the best thing I could do was be seen and rarely heard. As a kid, adults told me to stop talking. As a teen, I was told that boys don't like smart girls. Never mind that I wasn't sure if I was a girl, and I definitely wasn't sure if I cared what boys thought. I still am on the fence about that. As a young adult, I found myself constantly being mansplained to about music and art and film and books and politics. And even though these are things that I think about and matter to me, no one cared what I had to say, and it was pointless to offer my thoughts on this. And as a professional within the fashion industry, I was usually talked over, cut off, or just plain ignored, no matter how much experience or knowledge I had. I learned to be quiet and stay quiet. I rarely told anyone anything about myself because I was ashamed of my background and of my life story. There was something so embarrassing about having all of the things happen to you. Why couldn't it have just been one? Couldn't I just have had cancer as a kid? Couldn't I have just grown up poor in a trailer? Couldn't I just have had a messed up and unloving family? Couldn't I just have had bipolar disorder? But of course, I had all of that. And I felt like no one wanted to hear that and that I should be ashamed of all of that in the first place. Of course, I was taught to be ashamed of being a single parent, of having a partner that died of a drug overdose. There was something about the tremendous and seemingly unending grief of all of that and the trauma that I'd experienced before and after that also filled me with shame. And I knew that no one wanted to hear about it. And so I never told anyone very much about myself at all. My friends knew very little about me. Romantic partners knew even less. But Clotheshorse changed something for me. Suddenly, what I had to say did matter. People wanted to hear it. People learned from it. People found comfort in it. Even people I'd never met before. And even more surprising and extremely liberating, people wanted to hear about me, about my life, about how my experiences led me here. And that was something that I never thought anyone would want to hear. Yes, I have given this community a lot of work and comfort and support over the last 4 years, but all of you have given me something too. You helped me find myself. You helped me discover my place. You kept me going through one of the lowest points in my life. And you gave me hope for a better future, something I never had before. I have also loved hearing all of you do the same, share your stories, your experiences, your knowledge here on Clotheshorse, on social media, to the people around you. I know it is scary to make yourself vulnerable, and I'm proud of all of us for doing that, because being our authentic selves and feeling free to do that, that's how we see what is really important and how scammy most of the other ideas we're sold are. So thank you. Thank you for being a part of this, for listening to me talk, for joining the conversation and bringing your friends along for the ride. Thank you to all the small businesses that have supported Clotheshorse over the years, some of you since the very beginning. Thank you to all of you who share my posts and tell friends about the podcast and offer financial support via Patreon and whatnot. Thank you for everyone who has shared their own stories on Clotheshorse over the years, which I know is a very scary thing. Honestly, the scariest part is having to listen to the sound of your own voice. I know what a risk you're taking when you share that stuff with all of us. Thank you to all of you who have said, you know what, I'm gonna get used to hearing my own voice long enough to be a guest and be recorded for hours. Thank you for all of that. And thank you for listening to another episode of Clotheshorse, written, hosted, edited, all the things by me, Amanda Lee McCarty. Thank you to Jem for traveling all the way to Lancaster County to star in puppet shows and help steer this extravaganza and show everyone the edible arrangement and go to BB's.
Well, I mean, it was hardly a trial to go to BB's, to be fair.
It's true. Oh.
That was more of a perk.
Thank you to Dustin for making all the video content happen. It was so much work. We spent every weekend for like a month just working on these videos. I definitely owe him a fancy dinner in exchange for that. Thank you to Jason and Anne and everyone here at So Good Media Studios at the Candy Factory for helping us make this happen. This would not be happening if I hadn't said to Jason, hey, do you know how to do a live episode? And Jason has helped us make this happen. I am so grateful for that. I owe you a fancy dinner too, or a trip to BB's. You get to pick. Thank you to all of you who submitted videos, audio messages, and questions. Thank you to Chloe of Disco Cowboy Collective, my favorite salon ever, for making my hair look so good. And that's all for now. I'm taking a few weeks off to rest and plan and hopefully get my vegetable garden started.
Amanda.
So I'll see you in a few weeks. And cheers. We did it. Bye, everyone.